Hello, welcome to my weekly vlog, Debra Keirce's Art Journey. Thanks so much for hitting that subscribe button. Today I want to do a follow-up to my last week's video about ellipses and drawing the near perfect ellipse. And what I want to talk about are asymmetrical ellipses. Well, here's a news flash for you. They don't exist. They're unicorns. An asymmetrical ellipse is called an egg. Mathematically, they don't exist. Then how stupid am I? I have a degree in biochemical engineering, and yet I looked for the asymmetrical ellipse for decades, literally. I asked every instructor I encountered to help me find them. The reason I couldn't find them is they don't exist. And so finally I figured it out. Actually, a lot of other people figured it out. I just understood them. But let me show you some proof of this, okay? If you are like me, sometimes you want to check your ellipses on your paintings or on your drawings. You have this tool. It's just a typical stencil. They don't make stencils for asymmetrical ellipses. Somebody would have made them by now if they existed, because people think of these things and of course they'd want to make money. They don't make them. Second thing is, when you are looking at an ellipse and it appears asymmetrical to your eye, what's happening is, do you remember last week where I showed you how to do that thing where you find your ellipse, find your axes, and you find the up and down and the back and forth, and then you trace, you put one dot on each, and then you trace along that outside line to where you create a perfect ellipse? I did that with these two axes. These axes are not perpendicular. They're not at a 90-degree angle, as you notice. And that's because what happens is when you think an ellipse is asymmetrical, all that's happened is your axes have changed. They're not perpendicular anymore. Your perspective has changed. And so instead of looking at something from a straight-on view with a vertical axis, you now are looking at it askewed, as if that plane had shifted, and your axes have now come to what we call a vanishing point in perspective. And so the axes have moved, but look what happens when you do that same Trammell method on those moved axes or on those askewed axes. You still get a symmetrical ellipse. So again, proof that the asymmetrical ellipse does not exist. Let me help you visualize this. Unicorn, straight on ellipse, right? This is what happens is these axes shift and the center that we view that ellipse on shifts. So if you're drawing terminators and bed bug lines and other things that we call, when you model form, all of that is going to shift. All the shading, all the modeling shifts. The center of this ellipse shifts because where we're looking at it from moves along these axes. But the actual ellipse is the exact same. These are the exact same ellipse. I used that stencil to trace them. Okay? It just appears as if this one is asymmetrical because we're looking at it from a different vanishing point up here. A different perspective. Another way to look at it, if I had a perfect circle and I start to tilt it, it becomes an ellipse, right? So the more I tilt it, the closer it gets to that horizon line, until it becomes that horizon line, or a flat plane with that horizon line, it becomes more and more elliptical. But all along, it's symmetrical. So there you have it. There's your tip for this week, and we'll see you next week.